So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the community-based subsistence fishing area at the Department of Land and Natural Resources. I know there's a lot of questions about what it is and it seems really new, but actually this is a program that was established in the early 1990s by Governor John Mahee, who assigned the Governor's Subsistence Task Force report to investigate the importance of subsistence living to Maotai residents and also study what the impacts that were negatively impacting their ability to subsist on the island, and then develop policy recommendations to address those issues. Now, as a result of that, emerged the statute which authorizes the DLNR to designate community-based subsistence fishing areas. So the community-based subsistence fishing areas statute gives the DLNR the authority to designate these areas to protect and reaffirm traditional and customary fishing practices exercised for the purpose of Native Hawaiian subsistence, culture, and religion. The legislature intended for this to be a vehicle for the department to effectuate its obligation under Article 12, Section 7 of the Hawaii State Constitution to protect traditional and customary practices. This statute is unique in that it requires communities to actually propose this type of designation, including a management plan to the DLNR for consideration. Now, these areas must be proposed by a community group or organization that has a charter and a membership. Now, a lot of times people ask, well then who is the community? What does that mean when we're talking about community-based? And we shouldn't really read too much into it, because actually it really was just inserted by the legislature specifically to make the designation more inclusive of the entire community and not simply the Native Hawaiian traditional subsistence fishing practitioners of the area. The legislature really wanted to recognize that anyone a part of the community could be a part of this effort to protect subsistence fishery resources, so long as they were using traditional and customary practices. So the community-based subsistence fishing area evaluation tool that was developed and is available in the CBSFA designation guide available online on the DAR website really lays out management considerations as well as community partner considerations that the department has identified as important to its evaluations of these proposals. So these things sort of lay out considerations to make sure that we would be fulfilling the purpose of the statute, as well as other criteria related to community partner readiness, so that we make sure that we're engaging with appropriate and responsible community partners when we're working to establish co-management partnerships for the management of fisheries in these areas. So I think one of the biggest questions that I always get about these areas is, well, who is the community? And it's such a good question. And I really understand people's concerns about that, because you feel like if it's community based, then only that community who's proposing those areas is being listened to, and that's really not the case. The reason why it's called community based is because the legislature specifically changed the name from its original the designation's original name, which was Native Hawaiian Subsistence Fishing Area, but they wanted to change it to community-based to show that these designations are inclusive of all community interests of that place, and that anybody willing to promote traditional and customary fishing practices of an area could also be involved in the effort to designate these areas, so long as those traditional and customary practices were being used. And again, the purpose of these areas is to protect those traditional and customary practices for the purpose of Native Hawaiian subsistence, culture, and religion, but you don't necessarily need to be Native Hawaiian to be involved in these. So that's really where the term comes from. But, on top of that, there are also legally mandated opportunities for public input throughout the designation process. So even though there's a specific group of people who are proposing these areas, the DLNR has the responsibility to balance interest on a case-by-case basis. And so the rules that are being proposed, while representative of those community subsistence practitioners' interests and the subsistence needs of the community, they'll they're still being balanced against all of the other interests that are weighed out throughout the Chapter 91 administrative rulemaking process, as well as the Small Business Regulatory Review Board, which assesses potential impacts on small business.